June 22, 1941, marked a turning point in World War II. This date is etched in history as the day when the world witnessed the beginning of one of the most significant and devastating military campaigns ever launched. Nazi Germany unleashed Operation Barbarossa, the largest military invasion in history. This operation was meticulously planned and executed with the intent to bring the Soviet Union to its knees. The scale of this invasion was unprecedented, involving millions of soldiers, thousands of tanks and aircraft. I'm survive or die here to tell you about this story. Before we get further in, don't forget to like and subscribe. At 3:15 a.m., over 3 million German soldiers stormed into Soviet territory. The sheer number of troops involved in this operation was staggering, and it demonstrated the lengths to which Nazi Germany was willing to go to achieve its objectives. The invasion was a massive and coordinated effort, with soldiers advancing on multiple fronts. Their objective to crush the Soviet Union and conquer European Russia. The German forces aimed to capture key cities and strategic locations, thereby crippling the Soviet Union's ability to resist. The plan was ambitious and required precise execution to succeed. Hitler envisioned a swift campaign, culminating in the capture of Moscow before winter. He believed that taking the Soviet capital would lead to the collapse of the Soviet government and the end of resistance. This vision drove the German military strategy and dictated the pace of the invasion. The German High Command underestimated the Soviet Union's resolve and the harsh Russian landscape. The vast and rugged terrain posed significant challenges to the advancing German forces. Additionally, the Soviet Union's determination to defend its homeland was stronger than the Germans had anticipated. The German plan relied on surprise and blitzkrieg tactics. Blitzkrieg, or lightning war, was a strategy that emphasized rapid and overwhelming force to quickly defeat the enemy. This approach had been successful in previous campaigns, and the Germans hoped it would work against the Soviet Union as well. 3 army groups advanced north towards Leningrad, center towards Moscow, and south aiming for Ukraine. Each of these army groups had specific objectives and targets, and their coordinated efforts were crucial to the overall success of Operation Barbarossa. The Luftwaffe initially enjoyed air superiority, aiming to cripple the Soviet response. The German Air Force played a critical role in the invasion, providing support to ground troops and targeting key Soviet infrastructure. This air superiority was intended to disrupt Soviet communications and supply lines, making it difficult for the Soviets to mount an effective defense. The Luftwaffe's dominance in the skies was a key factor in the early successes of the German invasion. However, as the campaign progressed, the Soviets began to adapt and improve their air defenses, challenging the Luftwaffe's control. The world watched as the vast plains of Eastern Europe became a theater of war on an unprecedented scale. The battles that took place during Operation Barbarossa were some of the largest and most brutal of the entire war. The human cost was immense, with millions of soldiers and civilians losing their lives. The impact of this campaign was felt not only in the Soviet Union, but across the globe, as it reshaped the course of World War II. Despite the initial successes of the German invasion, the Soviet Union's resilience and ability to mobilize its vast resources began to turn the tide. The Soviet Counteroffensive, which started in the winter of 1941, marked the beginning of a long and grueling struggle that would eventually lead to the defeat of Nazi Germany. The harsh Russian winter played a significant role in the failure of Operation Barbarossa. The German forces, unprepared for the extreme cold and harsh conditions, struggled to maintain their momentum. The winter weather not only affected the soldiers' morale, but also caused significant logistical challenges, as equipment and supplies were difficult to transport and maintain. In addition to the regular Soviet army, partisan groups and guerrilla fighters played a crucial role in resisting the German invasion. These groups conducted sabotage operations, disrupted supply lines, and provided valuable intelligence to the Soviet military. Their efforts significantly hindered the German advance and contributed to the overall Soviet resistance. The Soviet Union's ability to rapidly increase its industrial production and mobilize its population for the war effort was another key factor in its eventual success. Factories were relocated to the east, away from the front lines, and production of weapons and supplies was ramped up to unprecedented levels. This industrial might provided the Soviet military with the resources it needed to continue fighting and eventually push back the German forces. One of the most significant turning points in the conflict was the Battle of Stalingrad. This brutal and protracted battle which lasted from August 1942 to February 1943, saw the Soviet forces encircle and ultimately defeat the German Sixth Army. The victory at Stalingrad marked the beginning of a series of Soviet offensives that would eventually lead to the liberation of Eastern Europe and the fall of Berlin. The culmination of the Soviet Union's efforts came in May 1945, when Soviet troops captured Berlin and raised the Soviet flag over the Reichstag. This moment symbolized the end of World War II in Europe and the defeat of Nazi Germany. The sacrifices made by the Soviet people and the resilience they demonstrated throughout the conflict were instrumental in achieving this victory. The aftermath of World War II saw the world grappling with the immense destruction and loss of life caused by the conflict. Europe, in particular, faced the daunting task of rebuilding and recovering from the devastation. The lessons learned from this period continue to shape our understanding of war and the importance of striving for peace and cooperation among nations. Today, we remember and honor the millions of lives lost during World War II. Memorials and monuments around the world serve as reminders of the sacrifices made and the enduring impact of the war. As we reflect on this history, we are reminded of the importance of vigilance and the need to work towards a future free from the horrors of war. The legacy of World War II continues to influence the world we live in today. The political, social, and economic changes that emerged from the conflict have shaped the modern era. Understanding this history is crucial to appreciating the complexities of our present and the challenges we face as a global community. In the years following World War II, efforts to promote global peace and cooperation led to the establishment of international organizations such as the United Nations. These institutions aim to prevent future conflicts and foster collaboration among nations. The lessons of World War II underscore the importance of these efforts and the need for continued commitment to peace and diplomacy. As we look back on the events of World War II, we also pay tribute to the veterans who served and the civilians who endured unimaginable hardships. Their stories and experiences provide valuable insights into the human cost of war and the resilience of the human spirit. By remembering their sacrifices, we honor their legacy and reaffirm our commitment to building a better future. Education plays a vital role in preserving the memory of World War II and ensuring that future generations understand its significance. Schools, museums, and educational programs around the world work to teach the history of the war and its lessons. By fostering a deeper understanding of this period, we can help prevent the mistakes of the past and promote a more peaceful and just world. Documentaries, books, and historical research continue to shed light on the complexities of World War II. These resources provide valuable perspectives and contribute to our collective knowledge of the conflict. By studying and analyzing this history, we gain a greater appreciation for the challenges faced by those who lived through it and the enduring impact of their experiences. Commemorations and events held in honor of World War II serve as important reminders of the sacrifices made and the lessons learned. These gatherings bring people together to reflect on the past and reaffirm our commitment to peace and understanding. By honoring this history, we ensure that the legacy of World War II continues to inspire and guide us. Preserving historical sites and artifacts from World War II is essential to maintaining a tangible connection to this period. These sites serve as powerful reminders of the events that took place and the people who lived through them. By protecting and preserving these locations, we honor the memory of those who fought and ensure that future generations can learn from this history. The stories of World War II survivors provide invaluable insights into the human experience of the conflict. Their first-hand accounts offer a unique perspective on the challenges and triumphs of this period. By listening to and sharing their stories, we keep their memories alive and ensure that their experiences are not forgotten. The impact of World War II on the modern world is profound and far-reaching. The political, social, and economic changes that emerged from the conflict continue to shape our lives today. By understanding this history, we gain a greater appreciation for the complexities of our present and the importance of working towards a more peaceful and just future. As we remember and honor the past, we are reminded of the importance of vigilance and the need to work towards a future free from the horrors of war. The legacy of World War II serves as a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring importance of peace and cooperation among nations. The initial German assault caught the Soviets largely off guard. The speed and ferocity of the blitzkrieg overwhelmed Soviet defenses. The Luftwaffe decimated the Soviet Air Force in the opening days. German forces made rapid gains, capturing hundreds of thousands of Soviet soldiers. Cities and towns were reduced to rubble. The Red Army, reeling from the shock, fought back fiercely but was often ill-prepared. Stalin, initially disbelieving of the attack, went into seclusion. When he emerged, he rallied the nation with a chilling radio address. The Soviet people were engaged in a great patriotic war for their motherland. Amidst the chaos, stories of individual courage and sacrifice emerged. Civilians endured unimaginable hardships, fleeing their homes with whatever possessions they could carry. As the German advance continued, the Eastern Front erupted into a maelstrom of fire and steel. From the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea, battles raged across vast distances. Army Group North pushed towards Leningrad, met with stubborn resistance. Leningrad endured a grueling 900-day siege. Army Group Center drove towards Moscow, aiming to deal a decisive blow. In the south, Army Group South targeted Ukraine's vast wheat fields and industrial centers. The region's resources were crucial for the German war effort. The German drive towards Moscow, codenamed Operation Typhoon, commenced in late September 1941. The Wehrmacht threw its remaining strength into the offensive. Soviet resistance stiffened with each passing day. General Georgy Zhukov took command of the defense of Moscow. Autumn rains turned the Russian landscape into a sea of mud, hampering German movement. Despite worsening conditions, the Wehrmacht pressed on, reaching the outskirts of Moscow in early December. The spires of the Kremlin were tantalizingly close. However, the German offensive lost momentum, exhausted by relentless fighting and the bitter cold. On December 5, 1941, the Soviet Union launched a massive counteroffensive. Fresh Siberian divisions smashed into the exhausted German lines. The element of surprise was complete. The German offensive crumbled under the weight of the Soviet counterattack. The Wehrmacht, ill-prepared for the harsh winter, was forced to retreat. The dream of a swift victory lay shattered. The Soviet counteroffensive marked a turning point in Operation Barbarossa. It shattered the myth of German invincibility. The Red Army inflicted the first major defeat on the Wehrmacht. The tide of the war had begun to turn. The failed German assault on Moscow marked the beginning of the end for Operation Barbarossa. The Wehrmacht was now locked in a protracted struggle with a determined enemy. The Red Army went on the offensive, pushing the Germans back from Moscow. The spring of 1942 saw the Germans regroup and launch a new offensive. Their objective was to capture the oil fields of the Caucasus. The offensive, codenamed Case Blue, initially made good progress. The Battle of Stalingrad, beginning in August 1942, became a turning point. The German Sixth Army found itself encircled and trapped. Despite Hitler's orders, Paulus surrendered in February 1943. Stalingrad was a decisive Soviet victory, shattering the myth of German invincibility. Stalingrad marked a turning point, but the Battle of Kursk in 1943 sealed the fate of Operation Barbarossa. The battle involved thousands of tanks and aircraft on both sides. The Germans launched a massive offensive at the Kursk salient. The Soviets, well prepared, fortified their positions. The Red Army, equipped with T-34 tanks, blunted the German offensive. The Battle of Kursk was a decisive Soviet victory. From this point, the Wehrmacht was on the defensive. The victories at Stalingrad and Kursk showcased the evolving capabilities of the Red Army. The Eastern Front was a human tragedy of unimaginable proportions. Millions of soldiers and civilians were caught in the crossfire. Soviet soldiers fought with a ferocity born of desperation. They endured hunger, disease, and constant threat of death. Their sacrifices played a crucial role in turning the tide of the war. Civilians suffered immensely, displaced from their homes. Those who remained endured forced labor and starvation. Women joined the Red Army as snipers, nurses, and pilots, facing the same dangers as men. Their contributions challenged traditional gender roles and highlighted the sacrifices made by women. Operation Barbarossa ended in catastrophic failure for Nazi Germany. The invasion bogged down into a protracted war of attrition. The dream of conquering the Soviet Union lay shattered. Millions of soldiers and civilians perished. The Soviet Union lost an estimated 27 million people. The German losses had a lasting impact on German society. The failure of Barbarossa had profound implications for World War II. The German defeat relieved pressure on the Western Allies. The war on the Eastern Front tied down vast numbers of German troops. Barbarossa's legacy extended far beyond the battlefields, contributing to the emergence of the Cold War. Operation Barbarossa stands as a stark reminder of the human cost of war. The invasion unleashed a torrent of violence and destruction. The failure of Barbarossa offers valuable lessons for military strategists. The German underestimation of Soviet resolve and the challenges of fighting in Russia are crucial considerations. The resilience of the Soviet people is a testament to the human spirit. The Soviet victory serves as a reminder that even brutal dictatorships can be defeated. The lessons of Barbarossa remain as relevant today as they were in World War II.